This is the Wolves POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
T-Wolves snap out of their three-game funk versus a bad Pacer team, 124-104. That's the final. What's going on back in the lab, back at it? Another T-Wolves postcast, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making this the number one sports podcast network. Jack Borman, Wolves expert, NBA expert. Give him a follow on X at Jared Borman 13. Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. And go follow our guy, Ben Beacon, as well, right? Host of the Locked On T-Wolves show. He's got your 30-minute daily dose breaking down everything Wolves related. Also, that Wolves Squad show, that's in full effect right now. Parker Fox and company, they got your weekly Wolves deep dive as well. Be sure to go check that out right after this. Lots to get into here, Jack. Game MVP. Biggest turning point, what we'll be talking about tomorrow. But just off the top, kind of big picture, Wolves coming in on this 3-game losing streak. Only 4 games to go right before the playoffs. Desperately trying to regain some identity again, trying to find some rhythm again without Anthony Edwards. Still no Jaden McDaniels again before the playoffs start next week. No better spot really to recalibrate your game than in Indiana against one of the worst teams in the NBA. Wolves up 10 at halftime. And then had one of those kind of vintage Wolves third quarters. When they're at their best, they seem to really click in the third quarter. 39 points tonight. They outscored the Pacers by 15 in that third quarter. They go up 25, and that was kind of all they needed. Dosunmu leading the charge, 24 points, team high. Bones Highland still adding that spark off the bench with 19. Julius had 19 as well. Even Jaylen Clark putting up 11 and 18 minutes. That was nice to see. A big picture, though, Jack. Biggest takeaways tonight, what were they?
Yeah, for sure. Great to have the Wolves come in early and build a big lead and hold it and take care of it for for pretty much the whole entire game to take care of business and essentially clinch a playoff spot tonight. So you can always complain about not winning a game cleaner or by more, but that I'm not one of those people. So great to blow out the Pacers and at least get 4 or 5 minutes for some of the Wolves key guys to sit on the front end of a back-to-back before they play in Orlando tomorrow. So, defensively, I thought the Wolves had great hands, played in an anticipatory fashion that really helped create points going the other way, right? I mean, the Wolves forced 13 turnovers in the first 17 minutes of the game. 10 of them were steals. And for reference, you want to talk about teams that, lead the NBA in steals this season. The Pistons lead the NBA in steals this season at 10.5 per game. So for the Wolves to have 10 in the first, not even quarter and a half is pretty significant. 19 of the Wolves' first 44 points came off turnovers. And then they ended up with 21 points off turnovers in the first half, which was their most in any half this season. So I really liked the way that they got after it on that end and were super aggressive and played in the passing lanes. And that's exactly what you should do when you've got Rudy Gobert back down behind you. And then, offensively, I thought that the approach that they played with tonight was much more aligned with how they need to play without Ant and Jaden. And I think that's, you need Ayo Dosunmu to kind of be your primary perimeter scorer. And he was much better tonight in that regard. And then, you could say, well, why wouldn't Julius Randle do it? And I think that part of it is because they just need his playmaking, right? And I think that he just kind of serves as a really important playmaking hub to get a lot of different guys going early in the game. And I thought he played that role really wonderfully in the first half. And then really throughout the entire game as just an excellent secondary guy and playmaker. Thought he was really good in that kind of pitch and catch game, threw some cross-court lasers that were awesome. And then it felt like the first time in a hot minute that both Bones Highland and Naz Reid scored really well and efficiently off the bench. The Wolves had 3 scores in double figures between Bones with 19 and 7 assists and no turnovers for Bones. Naz Reid, 17. Great to see him knock down 3 threes. I think he made 3 a few games ago, but before that, it had probably been well over a month. And then, Jaylen Clark, we'll get into him a little bit later, but 11 points as well in his 18 minutes. So great to see, the Timberwolves bench cobbled together 57 points against a team that was basically playing 10 guys tonight.
Let's get into the biggest MVP, game MVP tonight here, Jack.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, who was the alpha tonight that kind of led the charge, kind of set the tone in this one? Game MVP, who you got tonight and why?
Yeah, I think you could go a lot of different directions, but I'm going to go with Ayo Dosunmu. I just thought that the way that he kind of set the tone of this game in that first quarter and really kind of maintained it throughout the game with his downhill aggressiveness was awesome. I thought, we talked about it the other night that he really struggled to create his own shot inside the arc, and tonight was the complete opposite of that. He took 12 shots in the paint tonight, made 9 of 12. Took 9 at the rim, was 7 of 9 at the rim, and just absolutely packed it on Jay Huff out of nowhere, which was really fun to see. That I think got all of his teammates going. And then, again, just the transition part of it for me. The Wolves only had 13 fast break points tonight, but it felt like they had a little bit more, just considering that they scored 34 points off of 23 Pacers turnovers. But again, you can just kind of see when Ayo's eyes light up and he wants to just flip that switch and become a one-man fast break and just kind of take it to the rim and score. And I thought that, pretty much all the drives he had were really smart, good reads, and ended up being smart decisions that more often than not resulted in points. So, and then on the other end of the floor for Ayo, again, just the way that he laid in the weeds and kind of those semi-transition possessions when Indiana was just crossing the timeline and looking to make a pass across the court. I thought he did a great job of kind of sniffing those passes out, waiting around, and then just pouncing on them, and then finding an outlet pass up the floor to get those transition possessions structured properly. And if it didn't ultimately result, in a very quick shot opportunity, there were also some times where he pulled it out smartly, got everybody set up, and then scored a bucket that way. So I thought it was just a really nice, complete game from Ayo Dosunmu. I think he'd for sure tell you that 5 turnovers to 1 assist is an area that he needs to clean up for sure. A couple of them were situations where he stole it and turned it over right back. And then there were a couple where there was just a little bit too ambitious looking for Rudy, but I like that he is looking for Rudy. I'd much rather see a couple of those than just completely not looking Rudy's way at all. So I'm fine to live with a few of those, but overall, I thought that Ayo Dosunmu was a really important leader for the Timberwolves offense, and I think kind of helped them maintain what was we're better than you and we're going to come out and win this game type of tone.
Plenty more deep dive, biggest turning point, plus what we'll be talking about tomorrow. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. You ever go check your bank account and go, where'd my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment. So easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's not just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, your spending. It's all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and instead you start building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. You're getting 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA. You're getting half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, without a doubt, most fun I have playing daily fantasy. You can win up to 25 times your money, and why I love it, so easy to play. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats. Could be points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers, you name it, they got it. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Jack, biggest turning point tonight. Let's get into that.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Yeah, again, Wolves up 10 heading into the locker room, and then just, an onslaught with that 39-point third quarter to kind of put an early nail in the coffin in this one. When was that specific sequence, though, Jack, that you thought was the biggest turning point tonight, and why?
Yeah, to me, honestly, I thought it was the beginning of the game, right? I thought that the Wolves came out and played, really professional on the offensive end of the floor, especially. I really liked the way that they shared the ball, got the ball from side to side of the floor, and did a great job of driving and then finding guys in the slots, making extra passes, whether it be to the corner or the top of the key, and then whether it's taking an open 3 or making plays from there. I thought the Timberwolves just got the ball to really advantageous spots on the floor, helped guys get in rhythm shots. You saw Mike knock down a three early. Dante knocked down a couple of threes early. Julius knocked down a couple of threes early. And I think that those are all byproducts of kind of everybody getting a touch in places they like to get the ball, everybody looking for each other in spots where they like to catch the ball on the floor. So that was really impressive for me. And we talked about the starters being the worst lineup that the Wolves had in the game the other night. And tonight, I just thought they played with a super palpable rhythm in that opening stint. They won the first 6-15 by a score of 21-11. And I just thought too, specifically, Dante and Julius did a really good job seeking each other out and getting each other going. And I think that is still a pairing that the Wolves are relying upon in a similar way to that Mike and Rudy pairing from their time together in Utah, to bring that over to now their time in Minnesota with Julius and Dante from New York. So, and all that resulted in the Wolves shooting 6 of 9 from the 3-point line, and just helped them build a cushion that I think they sustained for the rest of the game. And so I think anytime Timberwolves are able to get off to a really fast start against a clearly inferior opponent, it is certainly a good sign. And it's always a good sign when everybody that's on the floor has a hand in doing so. And I thought that was definitely the case tonight. And it just kind of snowballed from there in a really positive way for the Wolves.
Any quickies to snap off from tonight's game? I'd love, if nothing else here, to get your 2 cents and kind of quick thoughts on Jaylen Clark. Obviously, he had a nice night here. 11 points, 18 minutes, those 5 steals that you mentioned, 5 of 9 from the floor. Obviously, too, a guy that we just haven't seen a ton of minutes from this year as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if you're looking for a player who is going to most cleanly fit into a role that would require them to play 5 or 6 minutes in a playoff game, I think Jaylen Clark is the guy. Like, Jaden and Ant maybe are in foul trouble. We need you to go give 3 or 4 really good minutes on Jamal Murray. We need you to go give 3 or 4 really good minutes on De'Aaron Fox, or maybe it's Wemby, getting underneath Wemby, something like that. And I think that Jaylen Clark has proven that when the Timberwolves need him to go out there in those really short spurts of 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, he fits right in. And I think he just hangs his hat on the defensive end of the floor. And when he doesn't try to do too much on the offensive end, which is becoming more of a rarity as he plays now, I think that he just fits in really well to how the Timberwolves want to play defensively. And it's been really good to see him be rewarded with rotation minutes after strong performances in some of these recent outings, and more garbage time style minutes. But for Jaylen Clark to give you 11 points in 18 minutes, it feels like stealing, given where he's been at offensively for a decent amount of this season. But again, for him to have a game high 4 steals in 18 minutes is absolutely phenomenal. And I think just speaks to his kind of game wrecking ability on the defensive end of the floor. And I think, again, for a guy who hasn't really had a super clearly defined role all season long, to be able to answer the call when when he's been dialed, I think, again, just speaks to the maturity and the approach that Jaylen has. And it's been really fun to see him find success in some of these shorter minutes, because I have no doubt in my mind that the Timberwolves are going to call his number at some point in the postseason. And I feel very confident that at least on the defensive end of the floor, that he's gonna certainly step up to the plate and answer that call.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, man. 3 games left in the next 5, Dave. Obviously, crunch time now, right in the thick of this. Again, juicy Western Conference playoff seeding kind of fiasco going on. What is on your mind, though, after this blowout? What's kind of the vibe right now, and what's kind of the A topic, I guess, as we wake up tomorrow?
Yeah, I think the vibe has to certainly be better, right? Like I said, I don't think the Timberwolves have officially clinched a playoff spot, but they've all but done that. Now with the Suns, I think, being 3.5 games behind them, with the Suns having 4 games left to play, I believe. So I don't know if it's possible, but the Wolves are going to be able to breathe a lot easier now, getting at least 1 win under their belt here. And the biggest thing with that is I just think the last thing you need is some kind of cloud of angst and just uneasiness hanging over the team, and to erase that in a game where you're supposed to erase that, I think everyone's got to be feeling better. getting on the plane tonight, leaving for Orlando. And I think it should be a fun opportunity for the Wolves over these next 3 games, playing against teams with no reason to pack it in and lose. As a reminder, just because New Orleans doesn't have their first round pick this upcoming season, and they've been trying to win basketball games here. So it should be a really fun test. Just 3 super different teams in the Magic, the Rockets, and the Pelicans. Things that I'm going to be looking for, can the bench continue to be this productive, right? 57 bench points is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Can the Wolves do as good of a job defensive rebound in the basketball as they did tonight, right? They only allow 5 offensive rebounds for 6 second chance points. That's a huge step in the right direction. And then was the Wolves, kind of foul troubles tonight, was that a 1-game sample mirage type of thing? Or is that something that, maybe we have to worry about against, teams, a team like Orlando that's got, that Desmond Bane and Paolo Banchero both went to the line a bunch in their last matchup. And then, same type of thing with Amin Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Alperen Şengün for the Rockets. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And then, hopefully the Wolves can shoot the ball from 3 as well as they did tonight, right? Anytime you're shooting 17 of 41, 42% from 3, you're having a pretty good night, and chances are you're going to win the basketball game. So I think, if you can get even 3/4 of what you got tonight, you're seeing Dante had 3 threes, Julius 3 threes, Nas 3 threes, Bones 4 threes. Like, if those guys can continue to shoot the ball at a rate that's commensurate with how we know they can, I think that the Wolves could have some fun and come away with at least one more win here down the stretch.
Great stuff, man. As always, T-Wolves snap out of that 3-game funk, run away with this one. Great victory in Indiana, 124-104. That was the final. 47-32 now on the year, 15 games above 500. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And got to go follow Jack, too, if you haven't, at GR Borman 13. Make sure to check out that Wolf Squad show as well right after this. You got Jack, you got Sam Ekstrom, you got former Gopher Parker Fox as well. At Orlando tomorrow night on the back-to-back. Another 6 p.m. tip for that. Appreciate all you guys. We'll talk to you next time. Until then, sign it.